It's an orange juice.
What's up, everyone? It's OJ. The Elixir Pump takes deep understanding of micro and macro. In Clash Royale, micro is the precise tile placement and deploy timing of cards. Here's an example of micro. You can activate the King Tower with a tornado without having the Hog touch your Princess Tower. The tornado must be cast precisely on the third tile from the King's Tower, right as the Hog approaches the radius of the tornado. I know in my tornado video, I said it was impossible to avoid that one hit. I was wrong. But anyways, understanding the optimal placement of cards is generally considered micro. Now macro is the timing of your push. This involves understanding the overall picture of the game. This can be several factors including the timer of the game, how many seconds until double elixir time, what cards your opponent has, what rotation they're on, how much elixir they have, how fast the golem travels, sacrificing tower damage for an elixir advantage, and so on. For example, my opponent plays P.E.K.K.A. It's not double elixir. I know my opponent has Musketeer, Pump, Hog, and the Log in rotation. At 3 elixir, he cannot afford to take more than one shot from that princess since the tower is so low. I know he has to play the Log. Now that Log is out of rotation, he's at 2 elixir and has 0 counters to the Goblin Barrel. Even though the princess was a negative elixir trade against the Log, she dealt damage to the tower, baited out the Log, and the enemy no longer had enough elixir for proper counters. Negative traits are totally fine. Macro is the knowledge of the overall situation of the game. Back to the pump. On the same topic of macro, it costs 6 elixir, produces a total of 8 elixir, and generates elixir every 8.5 seconds. Digging deeper, it only profits elixir after 51 seconds. Generally, if you're using a low-cost, fast-cycle deck, this means don't plant an elixir collector if you're in overtime and the game is ending in under a minute. The positive gains don't kick in until it's too late. That being said, it is a reliable way to bank elixir for beatdown and high-cost decks with golems, 3 musketeers, and so on. It takes 16.8 seconds to recoup the 6 elixir spent on that pump. During overtime, it takes 8.4 seconds to regain that 6 elixir. In a sense, this increases your maximum elixir on the map. Your huge golem push ain't gonna make it. A golem takes 30 seconds to travel from the back of your King Tower to the Princess Tower. Pumping up less than a minute left in overtime to build a big golem push is not going to do you a favor. One of the best times to pump up is when your opponent's win condition is out of hand. This means they can't punish you for pumping up. Right as the clock hits 1 minute, it goes into double elixir and you immediately get a boost of +1 elixir. You have to keep an eye on your pump. If it's gonna fill up right as double elixir hits, you're going to leak 2 elixir. Notice how when I planted the golem, I only had a total of 2 elixir. Compared to the same situation, when timed properly, you'll come out with 4 elixir and a golem on the map. Let's talk micro. The placement of your elixir pump is just as critical as the timing of it. Your main enemies are the spells and the miner. When your opponent has a rocket, planting it in the rear means they can cancel out your pump and deal free damage to your crown tower. This is bad. This is when you should start planting your pump in the middle, even if they can counter it with rocket. There are 2 reasons. 1. This takes the rocket out of rotation and prevents them from spell cycling you and getting value on your tower and executioner, 3 musketeers, or whatever you planted behind that king tower. 2. If they don't have that 6 elixir to cast rocket or are slow to react, you'll gain a +1 elixir advantage. Between deployment and travel time, it takes 4 seconds to reach the elixir pump, meaning they'll have under 5 seconds to react, giving you a +1 elixir advantage, or they'll ignore it completely. Here's a common mistake I see. If the King Tower is already activated, aim for the King as well. Most people forget this and only take out the pump. Why? Arrows, the Log, and Zap are pretty straightforward. They deny 2 elixir. The pump will regenerate 6 elixir. It is not worth it to arrow a tower and the pump. But if they have minions, skeleton army, or anything that dies to arrows, it is worth it, as long as they don't have a spell bait deck and you're prepared with other splash cards to handle Goblin Barrel, Minion Horde, or whatever they spam at you. The Log is pretty straightforward. It costs 2 elixir, denies 2 elixir, so the pump will still generate 6 elixir. It's only worth logging in larger battles if you're pushing and can clip some ground unit like a cannon and some gobbies or whatever. It's almost never worth zapping a pump. It denies 2 elixir. Maybe if you can clip the pump, a princess tower, and some bats or minions, but definitely worth it if you can get a minion horde. Fireball and Poison will deny 5 Elixir for a neutral trade. The pump will still produce 3 Elixir, but your spell damages their Princess Tower in exchange. This is very situational. If you have a minor Poison deck, it's worth it. If Poison is your only counter to Swarm Troops or 3 Musketeers, it's not worth it. Once you know they have Poison, start planting Poison on the rear side of the tower with higher health. Once you figure out that they have Fireball, you can start planting it in the rear on the higher health side. If they have Fireball and a Miner, plant it in the middle, then stagger a tile towards the tower with higher health. They won't be able to Fireball the weaker tower, and the 2 Princess Towers will target the Miner. Lightning denies 7 out of 8 Elixir. It is worth it to Lightning most of the time to get 3 tower damage. Again, the obvious thing to do is planting the pump behind the tower with higher health when you know they have Lightning. One thing you gotta understand is that Zap denies 1.05 Elixir. Rounded up, that's still gonna deny 2 Elixir. So if you Fireball the pump, it denies 5. Then if you Zap it, that's only gonna deny 1 extra Elixir. Not worth. If you're facing a Siege player using Expo, you've gotta be careful with placing 2 pumps too close. If they have Lightning, Fireball, or Poison, they don't care about activating your King Tower. Poisoning 2 pumps and a tower is a positive Elixir trade. On the final topic of spells, Rage generates 1/3 of an Elixir. 8.3 Elixir is still only 8 Elixir. 2 Rages will generate 8.6 Elixir, that's still only 8 Elixir. It doesn't count unless you can generate 1 full Elixir. You'll have to Rage the same pumps 3 times in a row to generate that 9th Elixir. So for mass princess replays or whatever you're trying to achieve, keep raging the same groups of pumps. Hogs can take out a center pump as well. Deploying the hog in any of these 2 tiles ensures the hog beelines straight to the tower. The first hit denies 2 Elixir, the second hit denies 5 Elixir, and the third hit denies 7 Elixir. Even if the hog lands a 4th hit, it won't have denied more than 7 Elixir. 2 hog hits is the sweet spot. You might even be able to split push with really fast units like goblins and bats in both lanes to take advantage of the fact that the hog is tanking both towers. What you shouldn't do is deploy the hog outside of those 2 tiles. It'll just swerve to the Princess Tower. A mortar can take out a front pump too, if your opponent doesn't have the proper ground troops in rotation and you can get the mortar to lock on. Each shot denies 2 Elixir from replenishing. Then it carries on to wreck the Princess Tower. Each shot to the tower is like a fireball worth of damage. 1 hit from a Miner and it denies 1 Elixir. 2 hits will deny 3 Elixir from generating. 3 hits will deny 4 Elixir. Then 4 hits denies 5 Elixir. And then 5 or 6 hits will deny 7 Elixir from replenishing. If you have goblins or other fast ground units, planting a pump in the very corner is pretty solid if they don't have spells. It can always deny a Miner. Even if the Miner's deployed at a different spot, the goblins are pretty fast and will tank everything from the Miner. Planting the pump beside the king can be potentially risky. Even though you can shut down a Miner if he's planted in the top or bottom of the pump, you can never predict their high-risk gambling position. If you choose to defend, he'll get 3 hits, deny 5 Elixir, and you're now down 2 Elixir, playing those failure of goblins. It's all mind games. If you choose not to defend, the Miner will take out the pump and survive long enough to activate your King Tower, but you won't know if your opponent is going to gamble in this position or not. The safest placement against the Miner is to put your Elixir Collector in the middle. He'll get 4 hits and deny 5 Elixir. It's not the greatest, but better than a rear placement. When the king is activated, he'll only get 2 hits on the tower, which only denies 3 Elixir. This is a pretty sweet bargain if you leave him alone to whack your pump. If you track the pathing of your Miner, you can actually predict which side he's going to pop up on. As soon as I see him swerving left, I'm deploying my goblins on the left. As soon as I see him swerving to the right, I'll deploy ground units on the right and stop him from touching my pump. The only time you can't really read this pathing is if he's planted in front. He'll get 2 hits on the pump and deny 3 Elixir. It's good to understand micro for those optimal placements to make those sweet, sweet positive Elixir trades, and macro to build really big pushes to know when to counterattack. They go hand in hand. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more quality OJ.